A fender bender after a foggy shift throws hard-working Camilla into the orbit of tech CEO Dominic Reyes. What begins as an apology becomes something more, until the spotlight threatens everything. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Camilla Solis rushed out of Bright Smile Dental Clinic, her blue scrubs wrinkled after a 12-hour shift. Her dark hair was falling out of its messy bun as she fumbled for her car keys. She was late to pick up her brother Miguel from his night school computer class, and he'd already texted twice. "Leaving now," she texted back, sliding into her old Honda hatchback. The clock on her dashboard was stuck at 4:17, but her phone showed it was already 8:45 p.m. Miguel's class ended at 9 and it was a 20-minute drive across town. Camilla sighed as the car sputtered to life. Everything in her life seemed to be hanging by a thread lately. The car needed repairs she couldn't afford. The rent had gone up again. Miguel's school supplies weren't getting any cheaper, but she kept going, because that's what she'd always done. "Just keep swimming," she muttered to herself, a phrase from Miguel's favorite childhood movie that had become her personal mantra. The fog had settled in thick over the city streets. Camilla squinted as she navigated through the hazy glow of streetlights. Her mind drifted to the stack of bills waiting at home, calculating how much she could put toward each one from her next paycheck. She was so lost in thought that she didn't notice the traffic light changing. As she made a left turn, she heard the sickening crunch of metal against metal. Her heart sank as she felt the impact. "No, no, no," she whispered, immediately pulling over to the side of the road. In her rearview mirror, she could see the other car follow suit. Even through the fog, she could tell it was expensive, sleek and black, the kind of car she only saw in magazines or parked outside the fancy restaurants downtown. Camilla got out, already feeling sick to her stomach. Her insurance had the minimum coverage, and any claim would make her monthly payments skyrocket. She couldn't afford this. Not now. Not ever. "I'm so sorry," she called out, walking toward the other car, her phone clutched in her hand like a shield. "I can pay, just not all at once." The door of the black car opened, and a tall man stepped out. Camilla braced herself for yelling, for demands, for the anger she deserved for not paying attention. Instead, the man just stood there, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Camilla blinked in confusion. "Me?" she asked. "You're the one with the car worth more than my life savings." The man looked at his vehicle, then back at her. The front bumper was dented, with a scratch revealing the metal beneath the pristine black paint. But instead of surveying the damage with dismay, his lips curved into a smile. "I'm Dominic Reyes," he said, extending his hand. Camilla hesitantly shook it, noticing his expensive watch and tailored suit. "Camilla Solis, look, I know this is bad. If you give me your information, I'll figure something out." Dominic studied her for a moment, her tired eyes, the name tag still clipped to her scrubs, the way she kept checking her phone. "You seem like you're in a hurry." "My brother," she explained. "I need to pick him up from night school." Dominic nodded. "Let's exchange information and then you can go get your brother. We can figure this out later." 10 minutes later, Camilla had Dominic's business card tucked in her pocket. Her eyes had widened when she saw CEO Horizon Tech printed beneath his name. She'd given him her number, scribbled on the back of a gas station receipt, the only paper she could find in her car. "I'll call you tomorrow," he'd said. "Drive safely, Camilla." Now, as she pulled up to Miguel's school, she felt the weight of what had happened. She'd hit a CEO's car, a luxury car that probably cost more than she made in years. She was doomed. Miguel hopped into the passenger seat, his backpack bulging with books. At 17, he was all long limbs and energy, despite the late hour. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said, studying her face. "What happened?" "I had a little accident," she admitted. "Hit a very expensive car." Miguel's eyes widened. "Are we talking Lexus expensive or Lamborghini expensive?" "We're talking, I don't even know what kind it was expensive," Camilla said, pulling away from the curb. "The kind owned by CEOs who wear watches that cost more than our rent." Miguel let out a low whistle. "What are you going to do?" Camilla gripped the steering wheel tighter. "What I always do, figure it out, one step at a time." Later that night, after Miguel had gone to bed, Camilla sat at their small kitchen table, staring at Dominic's business card. Their apartment was modest but clean, decorated with framed photos and colorful throw pillows that hid the worn spots on the couch. The kitchen table doubled as her desk, and right now it was covered with bills, each one marked with due dates, and payment amounts in her neat handwriting. She picked up the cracked coffee tin labeled Someday, where she kept her savings. It wasn't much, just enough for emergencies or maybe one day a real vacation. Now it would go toward fixing a stranger's car. Her phone rang, startling her. The number wasn't saved in her contacts. "Hello?" she answered hesitantly. "Camilla? It's Dominic Reyes." She sat up straighter. "Mr. Reyes, I was just thinking about the accident. I want you to know I'm good for it. I can pay you back maybe $200 a month until—" "Actually," he interrupted, "I had a different idea. Would you let me take you to dinner tomorrow?" "Night." Camilla nearly dropped the phone. "Dinner? Why would you want to have dinner with me?" There was a pause, then a soft chuckle. "Call it a minor emotional settlement. If this is some weird rich guy guilt trip, I'll just Venmo you $50 and disappear," she said, immediately regretting her bluntness. But Dominic laughed, a genuine sound that made her smile despite herself. "No, this is a guy who hasn't smiled in a while, asking you to let him try." Camilla looked around her small apartment, at the bills on the table, at the life she'd built on hard work and careful planning. A dinner with a CEO wasn't part of the plan. It wasn't practical or sensible. "Just dinner?" she asked. "Just dinner," he confirmed. "We can discuss the car over food that doesn't come from a vending machine. I've had enough of those in meetings today." Against her better judgment, Camilla found herself saying yes. The next evening, Camilla stood in front of her closet, panic rising. "I have nothing to wear to a fancy restaurant," she told Miguel, who was sprawled on her bed doing homework. "Who said it's fancy?" Miguel asked, not looking up from his textbook. "He's a CEO, Miguel. They don't eat at diners." Her brother finally looked up. "Then don't go. This whole thing is weird anyway. Who asks out someone who hits their car?" Camilla sighed, pulling out a simple black dress she'd worn to a co-worker's wedding. "It's not a date. It's a negotiation." Miguel raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. An hour later, Camilla waited outside her apartment building, feeling overdressed and uncomfortable. When a car pulled up, she expected another luxury vehicle. Instead, it was a modest sedan, with Dominic behind the wheel. "You didn't bring your fancy car?" she said as she got in. Dominic smiled. "I figured we both might be more comfortable this way." He was dressed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, looking more like a regular guy than a CEO. To her surprise, he didn't take her to an upscale restaurant. Instead, they arrived at a food truck park where dozens of vendors served everything, from tacos to Thai food under strings of white lights. "I hope this is okay," Dominic said, suddenly looking uncertain. "Their fish tacos are amazing." Camilla felt her shoulders relax for the first time all day. "It's perfect, actually." As they walked through the park, Dominic explained, "I thought about taking you somewhere impressive, but then I realized that would be more about me showing off than us having a good conversation." They found a table after ordering, and Camilla took a deep breath. "So, about your car?" Dominic waved his hand dismissively. "It's already at the shop, don't worry about it." "But I need to pay for it," she insisted. "Why don't you tell me about yourself instead?" he countered. "You're a dental hygienist?" Camilla narrowed her eyes. "How did you know that?" He pointed to her purse. "Your name tag is sticking out." "Oh." She laughed, then began telling him about her job, about the patients she saw every day, about how she loved helping people feel better about their smiles. Once she started talking, it was surprisingly easy to continue. Dominic listened. Really, listened, asking questions that showed he was paying attention. When their food arrived, he told her about Horizon Tech, the company he'd built from a dorm room project into a successful business. "It's not as glamorous as people think," he admitted. "Mostly it's long meetings and longer emails." Poor CEO, she teased, feeling more comfortable than she'd expected. "All those meetings in your corner office while I scrape plaque all day," he laughed. "Fair point, but we all have our challenges, right?" The conversation flowed easily as they moved from topic to topic. Camilla told him about Miguel, how she'd been raising him since their parents died 5 years ago. "That's a lot of responsibility," Dominic said softly. Camilla shrugged. "He's a good kid, smart too. Going to college next year, hopefully with scholarships. You're proud of him." "More than anything," she agreed. As the evening wound down, Dominic walked her back to his car. "I had a good time tonight, Camilla." "Me too," she admitted, surprised by how true it was. "But I still need to know about the car repair," Dominic smiled. "How about this? Let me take you out again. And if you still want to pay for the repair after that, we'll work something out." Camilla should have said no. It would have been the sensible thing to do. But there was something about Dominic Reyes that made her want to be a little less sensible just this once. "One more dinner," she agreed. "But somewhere I can afford to pay my half." "Deal," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled. That night, after Dominic dropped her off, Camilla found herself smiling as she got ready for bed. Miguel was already asleep, his homework spread across his bed. She carefully gathered his papers, thinking about the evening. It had been so long since she'd done something just for herself, since she'd talked to someone who seemed interested in her as a person, not as a caretaker or an employee. It felt good. Dangerous maybe, but good. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. "Thank you for tonight. Looking forward to our next dinner. P.S. Your laugh is the best thing I've heard all week." Camilla fell asleep with the phone still in her hand, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The next morning, Camilla was arranging instruments in exam room 3 when her co-worker Lisa peeked in. "So who's the mystery man?" Lisa asked, wiggling her eyebrows. "What are you talking about?" Camilla replied, focusing on the tray in front of her. "Cammy, you've been humming all morning. You never hum, and you keep checking your phone and smiling." Camilla felt her cheeks grow warm. "It's nothing. Just a friend." "Uh-huh," Lisa said, clearly not convinced. "Well, your friend has good timing. You needed something to smile about." As the day progressed, Camilla found herself thinking about Dominic more than she wanted to admit. His text messages throughout the day were simple but thoughtful, asking about her lunch break or sharing a funny story about a meeting gone wrong. By the time their second date rolled around, this time at a small bookstore cafe, Camilla was genuinely looking forward to seeing him again. "Tell me something no one knows about you," Dominic asked as they sat with their coffee. Camilla thought for a moment. "I keep a coffee tin labeled Someday, where I put whatever money I can spare. It's not much, but it's hope," Dominic finished for her. "What's it for?" "I don't know yet," she admitted. "Maybe a trip somewhere, maybe a down payment on a house someday, just something beyond bills and necessities." Dominic nodded. "I have something similar, actually. A list. Things I want to do that have nothing to do with work or obligations." "Like what?" she asked. "Learn to play guitar, visit the Grand Canyon, eat pizza in Italy." He looked a little embarrassed. "Simple things, I guess." "The simple things are the best things," Camilla said softly. As they left the cafe, walking close but not touching, Camilla realized she hadn't mentioned the car repair once. Somehow, it didn't seem important anymore. "Third date?" Dominic asked. As they reached her building, Camilla knew she should end this now before it went any further, before she started believing in something that couldn't possibly work. They came from different worlds, had different lives, but when he looked at her with those hopeful eyes, she couldn't say no. "Third date," she agreed. Behind her apartment door, reality waited. Bills to pay, a brother to take care of, a life held together by determination and grit. But for now, just for this moment, Camilla allowed herself to enjoy the feeling of being wanted for exactly who she was. 3 weeks after the accident, Camilla found herself sitting on a park bench next to Dominic, sharing a bag of popcorn as they watched street performers. This had become their ritual on Thursday evenings, simple dates in public places where they could talk without pressure. "My assistant thinks I've lost my mind," Dominic said, smiling as he took a handful of popcorn. "I've been leaving the office. By 6 every Thursday. She's convinced I'm having a health crisis." Camilla laughed. "What did you tell her?" "That I found something more important than quarterly reports." He looked at her with such warmth that Camilla had to glance away, her heart beating faster. This thing between them, whatever it was, had grown from curious beginnings into something that felt dangerously like falling in love. Dangerous because Camilla couldn't shake the feeling that it was temporary, that eventually Dominic would return to his world of boardrooms and business deals, and she would be left with memories and a coffee tin labeled "Someday." "You're thinking too hard again," Dominic said, gently bumping her shoulder with his. "I can practically hear the gears turning. Just wondering how long we can keep pretending this makes sense," she admitted. "Us, I mean." Dominic turned to face her. "Who's pretending? I like being with you, Camilla, more than I've liked being with anyone in a long time. But we're so different. Are we?" He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "We both work too hard. We both take care of the people we love. We both have dreams we keep tucked away." Camilla looked down at their joined hands. "And what about the fact that you run a multi-million-dollar company while I clean people's teeth for a living?" "That's what we do, not who we are," Dominic said simply. Before she could argue further, his phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this. It's the office." He stood and walked a few steps away to answer. Camilla watched him, noting how he straightened his posture, his voice taking on a more commanding tone. This was the Dominic others saw, confident, authoritative, in control. She wondered if she was fooling herself, thinking she knew the real man beneath the CEO. When he returned, his expression was troubled. "I'm sorry, but I need to go. There's an issue with a product launch that can't wait until tomorrow." "Of course," she said, trying to hide her disappointment. "Go save the day." He hesitated, then leaned down and kissed her cheek. "I'll call you tomorrow." As she watched him walk away, Camilla reminded herself that this was reality, their worlds pulling them in different directions. She gathered her things and headed home, the evening suddenly feeling colder. The next day at work, Camilla was finishing with a patient when Lisa burst into the exam room, her eyes wide with excitement. "Camilla, you need to see this." She was holding her phone, practically bouncing on her toes. "I'm with a patient, Lisa," Camilla said, gesturing to the elderly woman in the chair. "It's fine, dear," the woman said, patting Camilla's arm. "I'm done. Anyway, and you girls obviously have something to discuss." After the patient left, Lisa thrust her phone into Camilla's hands. On the screen was a gossip website with the headline, "Tech CEO Dominic Reyes' New Romance with Mystery Woman." Beneath the headline was a photo of Camilla and Dominic at the park, the night before, sitting close together, his hand holding hers. "That's you," Lisa squealed. "You're dating Dominic Reyes? Why didn't you tell me?" Camilla stared at the screen in horror. The article described how they'd met, a fender bender turned fairy tale, and speculated about their relationship. Worse, there were comments beneath the article, many of them cruel, suggesting Camilla was after Dominic's money or that he was slumming it for publicity. "How did they even know about the accident?" Camilla whispered, scrolling through the article. "Keep reading," Lisa said, her excitement fading as she noticed Camilla's distress. The article quoted sources close to Reyes, saying the CEO had been charmed by the dental hygienist's honesty after she damaged his luxury car. His assistant, Camilla realized. She must have told someone. By lunchtime, Camilla's phone was buzzing constantly with texts from friends who had seen the article. Even Miguel called from school. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Some kids are talking about it here. Someone's sister works at your clinic and recognized you from the picture." "I'm fine," she lied, retreating to the staff break room for privacy. "It'll blow over." But it didn't blow over. More articles appeared online. Photographers started hanging around outside the dental clinic. One particularly persistent reporter even approached her in the grocery store, asking if she'd set her sights on Dominic Reyes before or after damaging his car. Dominic called repeatedly, but Camilla let the calls go to voicemail. She wasn't ready to talk to him, not while her life was being turned upside down. When she finally did answer, 3 days after the story broke, her voice was tight with anger. "Did you know this would happen?" "Camilla, I'm so sorry," Dominic said, sounding genuinely distressed. "I had no idea Jennifer would talk to the press. I've already fired her. You fired your assistant. Camilla closed her eyes, feeling even worse. Great, so now I've cost someone their job. She betrayed my trust, and yours, Dominic argued. That's not on you. Camilla sighed, sinking onto her couch. Miguel was staying at a friend's house for the night, giving her space she desperately needed. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Dominic. Our worlds colliding in the worst way. Let me fix this, he pleaded. I can make a statement, talk to the press, and make it an even bigger story. Camilla shook her head, though he couldn't see her. I just need some time, space to figure this out. There was a long pause. I understand, he finally said, his voice heavy with resignation. But Camilla, I want you to know that none of this changes how I feel about you. After they hung up, Camilla curled up on the couch, tears finally falling. It had been so easy to fall for Dominic, his genuine interest in her life, his laugh, the way he listened, like her words mattered. But now reality had crashed in, reminding her that their relationship existed in the real world, with real consequences. The next morning, Camilla was woken by a knock at her door. When she opened it, bleary-eyed in her pajamas, she found a delivery person holding an enormous bouquet of flowers. Camilla Solis, the delivery person asked. That's me, she confirmed, accepting the flowers. Inside was a card that read simply, for when you're ready to talk. Camilla put the flowers in water, touched by the gesture but still uncertain. She needed to think clearly without the intoxicating effect Dominic seemed to have on her judgment. At work, things had gotten worse. Patients were asking about her famous boyfriend. Dr. Patel, the clinic owner, called her into his office. Camilla, you know I value you as an employee, he began, looking uncomfortable. Her stomach dropped. Are you firing me? No, he assured her quickly. But the situation is disruptive. Patients are gossiping instead of focusing on their mental health. Reporters are calling the office. I'm sorry, Camilla said, feeling her face flush with embarrassment. I never wanted any of this. Dr. Patel nodded sympathetically. I know. But until things calm down, perhaps you could take some time off. Paid leave, of course. It wasn't really a suggestion. Camilla left the office with 2 weeks of unexpected vacation and the sinking feeling that her life was spiraling out of control, let's say. Home, she found Miguel waiting for her, his face serious. You're back early, he said, looking up from his laptop. Dr. Patel gave me some time off. She dropped her purse on the counter. Apparently, I'm bad for business right now. Miguel closed his laptop. This is crazy, Cammy. All because you went on a few dates with some rich guy? Some rich guy, she repeated, hurt by his dismissive tone. You don't even know him, Miguel. Neither do you, not really, her brother countered. You've known him for what, a month? And now your life is a mess. Camilla wanted to argue, but Miguel wasn't entirely wrong. I know he makes me happy, she said quietly. Or he did before all this. Miguel's expression softened. Look, I'm just worried about you. You're always taking care of everyone else. Who's taking care of you in all this? His concern broke something in her, and Camilla found herself crying for the second time in 24 hours, something she almost never did. Miguel moved to sit beside her, putting an awkward arm around her shoulders. It'll be okay, Cammy, he said, sounding much older than his 17 years. We'll figure it out. We always do. That evening, after Miguel had gone to his room to study, Camilla finally called Dominic back. Can we meet, she asked when he answered. Somewhere private. They agreed to meet at a small coffee shop in a neighborhood where neither of them was likely to be recognized. When Camilla arrived, Dominic was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee. He stood when he saw her, his face lighting up despite the tension between them. You came. I said I would, she replied, sliding into the booth across from him. How are you holding up? He asked, pushing one of the coffee cups toward her. Not great, she admitted. I've been put on leave from work. Miguel's worried, and I can't go grocery shopping without someone taking my picture. Dominic's face fell. I'm so sorry, Camilla. This is all my fault. It's not your fault your assistant betrayed your trust, she said, surprising herself by defending him. But it is the reality of your life, isn't it? The public attention, the scrutiny. He didn't deny it. Yes, but it's not usually this invasive. The story will die down eventually. And then what? Camilla asked, looking directly into his eyes. We go back to pretending we can make this work? That we can just be two normal people falling in love? Dominic's breath caught at her words. Is that what we're doing? Falling in love? Camilla hadn't meant to say it so plainly, but there it was. I don't know what we're doing anymore. That's the problem. They sat in silence for a moment, both cradling their coffee cups like lifelines. Tell me what you want, Camilla, Dominic finally said. Do you want to end this? Because if you do, I'll respect that. I'll walk away, make sure the press leaves. You alone. The thought of not seeing him again made her chest ache. I don't know what I want, she admitted. When I'm with you, everything feels right. But then I go back to my real life and it feels like I'm living in a fantasy that's bound to end badly. Dominic reached across the table, taking her hand. What if it's not a fantasy? What if it's just the beginning of something real? Real? Like reporters following me to work? Like being put on leave because I'm a disruption? She pulled her hand away. I didn't ask for any of this. You live in glass towers. I can't breathe up there. The hurt in Dominic's eyes was unmistakable, but he nodded. I understand. I won't push you. They finished their coffee in silence, the gap between them feeling wider with each passing minute. When it was time to leave, Dominic walked her to her car, keeping a respectful distance. For what it's worth, he said as she unlocked her door, these past weeks have been the happiest I've had in years. Camilla felt tears threatening again. For me too, she whispered. Can I call you? He asked, hope flickering in his eyes. She wanted to say yes, to grab onto whatever this was between them and not let go. But the rational part of her, the part that had kept her and Miguel afloat all these years, knew better. I think we need some time apart, she said, her voice breaking, to figure out if this is really what we both want. Dominic's shoulders slumped, but he nodded. I understand, but Camilla, I know what I want. It's you. It's been you since that foggy night when you crashed into my car and my life. She got into her car before she could change her mind, driving away with tears blurring her vision. In her rearview mirror, she could see Dominic standing there watching her go, a solitary figure growing smaller with distance. The days that followed were some of the hardest Camilla had ever experienced. She missed Dominic with an intensity that surprised her. Every time her phone rang, she hoped it was him, despite being the one who had asked for space. The media circus gradually began to die down, just as Dominic had predicted. But the damage was done. Camilla felt exposed, vulnerable in a way she never had before. She'd always been the one in control of her life, making careful decisions, planning for every contingency. Now she felt adrift, unsure of what to do next. Miguel watched her with concern, trying to cheer her up with his terrible jokes, and by taking on more chores around the apartment. His kindness only made her feel worse, as if she'd somehow failed him by letting her personal life affect their stability. You know, Miguel said one evening as they washed dishes together, it's okay to be sad, Cammy. You don't always have to be the strong one. His words echoed what Dominic had told her on their fourth date as they'd walked along the riverfront. You don't have to be okay around me, just honest. That night, Camilla found herself taking out her someday tin, counting the modest savings. Inside. It wasn't much, but it represented hope, possibility, the future she was saving for, one small sacrifice at a time. She thought about what Dominic had said about his own list of dreams, the simple pleasures he hoped to experience someday, when work allowed. How similar they really were, despite the trappings of their different lives. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, she found a photo of a familiar black luxury car, now with its bumper fully repaired, gleaming in the sunlight. The caption read, "Fixed on the outside, still broken on the inside, missing you." Camilla stared at the message, her heart pounding. She knew she should delete it, maintain the boundary she'd established. Instead, she found herself typing a response. "I miss you too." The 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a response came through. "Can we talk? In person? I have something important to tell you." Camilla hesitated, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. If she said yes, She was opening the door again to all the complications, the scrutiny, the clash of their worlds. If she said no, she might be closing the door on something that, despite everything, felt more real than anything she'd experienced. "So for tomorrow," she typed. "Same coffee shop, 7 p.m. His response was immediate. "I'll be there, thank you, Camilla." She put her phone down, feeling both terrified and strangely hopeful. Whatever happened tomorrow would determine whether their fender bender was the beginning of something lasting or just a detour on two separate journeys. The next day crawled by. Camilla cleaned her entire apartment, reorganized Miguel's college, application materials, and even baked cookies, anything to keep her mind off her upcoming meeting with Dominic. "You're stress cleaning again," Miguel observed, grabbing a warm cookie from the cooling rack. "That's the third time you've wiped down that counter." "I just want things to be neat," she said defensively. Miguel raised an eyebrow. "This is about him, isn't it? You're seeing Dominic again." Camilla sighed. Her brother knew her too well. "Just to talk, to get closure." "Closure," Miguel repeated, not sounding convinced. "Is that what you really want?" The question hung in the air as Camilla continued wiping the already spotless counter. Was closure what she wanted? Or did she want something else entirely? Something that scared her far more than ending things. At 6:30, she changed into a simple blue dress and applied a touch of makeup. She told herself it was just habit, not an effort to look nice for Dominic. The lie didn't even convince her. The coffee shop was quiet when she arrived. Just a few students with laptops and a couple in the corner. No sign of Dominic yet. Camilla chose a table near the back, her stomach fluttering with nerves. At exactly 7:00, the door opened and Dominic walked in. He spotted her immediately, his face lighting up with that smile that always made her heart skip. He was dressed simply in jeans and a button-down shirt, looking more like the man she'd come to know than the CEO, whose face occasionally appeared in business magazines. "You came," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "I said I would," she replied, echoing their exchange from the day before. An awkward silence fell between them, filled with all the things they'd left unsaid. Dominic broke it first. "I ordered something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "It's not here yet, but it should arrive soon." Before Camilla could ask what he meant, a barista approached their table with 2 coffees. "Thank you for coming," Dominic said after the barista left. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either," Camilla admitted. "But we need to talk. Really talk." Dominic nodded. "I agree. That's why I wanted to see you in person. There are things I need to say that can't be texted." Camilla braced herself, expecting him to agree that their worlds were too different, that the complications outweighed the connection they'd found. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. "About us, about what you said about living in glass towers." Dominic, he held up a hand. "Please let me finish. You were right. My life, my world, it comes with scrutiny and pressure that isn't fair to put on you. I've been successful in business, but at what cost? I've built this life where I'm surrounded by people who want something from me, where every relationship feels like a transaction." His honesty surprised her. "That sounds lonely," she said softly. "It was. Until I met you." Dominic's eyes held hers. "You never wanted anything from me except my time, my real self, not the CEO everyone else sees." A lump formed in Camilla's throat. "But that doesn't change the reality of our situations." "What if it could?" Dominic leaned forward. "What if I told you I've been thinking about stepping back from Horizon?" Camilla's eyes widened. "What? You can't quit your company because of me." "Not because of you," he corrected. "Because of what you helped me see. I built Horizon to create something meaningful, something that would last. Somewhere along the way it became about the next deal, the next acquisition. But it's your life's work," Camilla argued. Dominic shook his head. "It's my work, not my life. There's a difference. I've realized I want a life that includes more than just boardrooms and business trips." Before Camilla could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and saw it was Miguel. "I should take this," she said apologetically. "My brother never calls unless it's important." Dominic nodded, sitting back to give her privacy. Miguel, is everything okay? She asked, turning slightly away from Dominic. Not really, Miguel said, his voice tight with tension. There's a reporter here, Cammy, at our apartment. He's asking a bunch of questions about you and Dominic. He knows I'm your brother. Camilla felt the blood drain from her face. What? How did he find out where we live? I don't know, but he's being really pushy. I told him to leave, but he keeps knocking. Don't open the door, Camilla said firmly. I'm coming home right now. She hung up and turned to Dominic, her hands shaking. I have to go. There's a reporter at my apartment harassing my brother. Dominic's expression darkened. I'll come with you. No, Camilla said quickly. That will just make it worse. Camilla, this is because of me, Dominic insisted. Let me handle it. Despite her protests, Dominic followed her to her car, his own vehicle forgotten, in the coffee shop parking lot. The drive to her apartment was tense, Camilla's knuckles white on the steering wheel. When they arrived, a man with a camera was still lingering outside the building door. He perked up when he saw them approach, immediately beginning to snap photos. Ms. Solis, Mr. Reyes, can I get a statement about your relationship? Dominic stepped forward, his posture rigid with anger. You need to leave. Now. The reporter ignored him, continuing to take photos. Is it true you met when she crashed into your car? Was it love at first sight, or did you feel sorry for her? Camilla flinched at the man's words. Dominic moved to stand between her and the camera. You're trespassing on private property and harassing residents, Dominic said, his voice dangerously calm. Leave now or I'll call the police, and if a single one of those photos appears online or in print, my lawyers will be in touch. Something in Dominic's tone must have convinced the reporter he was serious. With a final sullen glance, the man retreated, walking quickly toward a car parked down the street. Are you okay? Dominic asked, turning to Camilla once the reporter was gone. She nodded, though she felt far from okay. I need to check on Miguel. Upstairs, Miguel was pacing the small living room. He rushed to hug Camilla when she entered, then stepped back. When he saw Dominic behind her, You brought him here, Miguel asked, his tone accusing. Miguel, Camilla warned. No, it's okay, Dominic said. Your brother has every right to be upset. This is my fault. Miguel crossed his arms. Yeah, it is. Do you have any idea what this has been like for her? For us? Miguel, stop, Camilla interrupted. This isn't helping, but Dominic shook his head. Let him speak, Camilla. I want to hear it. Miguel didn't need further encouragement. My sister works harder than anyone I know. She's raised me by herself since our parents died. She deserves someone who makes her life better, not someone who turns it into a tabloid story. The words hung in the air, harsh but not untrue. You're right, Dominic said finally. Camilla deserves better than what these past weeks have brought her. That's why I want to make it right. Miguel scoffed. How? You can't undo what's already happened. No, but I can change what happens next. Dominic turned to Camilla. That's what I was trying to tell you at the coffee shop. I've been making changes, big ones. Camilla looked at him confused. What kind of changes? I've stepped back from day-to-day operations at Horizon, he explained. I'm still on the board, but I've appointed a new CEO. Someone who's been ready for the role for years. You did what? Camilla couldn't believe what she was hearing. When? Last week. It's not public yet, but it will be soon. Dominic's eyes were earnest. I've been thinking about it for months, even before I met you. But knowing you, seeing how you live so honestly, so focused on what really matters, it gave me the push I needed. Miguel looked between them, his anger giving way to confusion. You gave up being CEO? For my sister? Not for Camilla, Dominic said, echoing what he'd told her earlier. Because of what knowing her helped me realize about myself, about what I really want. And what is that? Camilla asked softly. Dominic took a step toward her. A life that feels real. Connections that matter. The chance to finally do all those things on my someday list. The three of them stood in silence, the small apartment suddenly feeling too full of emotion and unspoken words. I'll give you two some privacy, Miguel finally said, retreating to his bedroom. When the door closed behind him, Camilla sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. I can't believe you stepped down as CEO. Dominic sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. It was time. I built the company to create something meaningful, but somewhere along the way, I lost sight of building a meaningful life for myself. And now, what will you do? She asked. That's up to me for the first time in years, he said, a smile tugging at his lips. I have some ideas, mentoring young entrepreneurs, working with tech education non-profits, learning to play that guitar. Despite everything, Camilla found herself smiling too. Sounds like you've thought this through. I have. Dominic hesitated, then reached for her hand. But there's one thing I'm still figuring out. Us. Camilla looked down at their joined hands. I don't know if there can be an us, Dominic. Even with you stepping back, our lives are so different. Are they? He challenged gently. We both care deeply about the people we love. We both have dreams we're working toward. We both want a life that feels authentic. Put that way, the differences between them seemed less insurmountable. What about the press? The attention? She asked. It will fade, Dominic assured her. Especially now that I'm not the face of Horizon anymore. I'll just be another former CEO with a boring life. Boring? Camilla raised an eyebrow. Dominic laughed. Okay, maybe not boring, but definitely more private. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that they could find a way forward that wouldn't disrupt her life or Miguel's, that the connection they'd found could withstand the complications of their different worlds. I'm not asking for promises, Dominic said, seeming to read her thoughts. Just a chance to see if we can make this work. On our terms, not anyone else's. Camilla thought about all the careful plans she'd made for her life, the safe choices, the predictable path. Dominic was none of those things. He represented risk, change, possibility, but maybe that was exactly what her someday tin was really about, hoping for something beyond the safe and predictable. Okay, she said finally, we can try, but slowly. And Miguel comes first. He always will. Dominic's face lit up with hope. I wouldn't have it any other way. The next few weeks were an adjustment for all of them. True to Dominic's prediction, the press coverage died down after the initial announcement of his stepping back from Horizon. There were still occasional photographers, still curious glances when they went out together, but the frenzy had subsided. Camilla returned to work, relieved when Dr. Patel welcomed her back without comment. Patients still sometimes asked about her CEO boyfriend, but the questions were more curious than intrusive now. Miguel remained cautious around Dominic, watching him, carefully whenever he came over for dinner or to help with college applications. But gradually, as Dominic proved himself to be more than just a rich guy in an expensive suit, Miguel's wariness began to thaw. He's not as bad as I thought, Miguel admitted one evening after Dominic had left. He actually gave me good advice about my personal essay. Camilla smiled, recognizing this as the closest her brother would come to giving his approval. He's trying, Miguel. We all are. And they were. Dominic was learning to navigate a life that wasn't defined by his company. Camilla was learning to open herself to possibilities beyond her carefully constructed plans. Together, they were discovering how to blend their worlds in ways that felt right for both of them. One evening, about 6 weeks after their coffee shop conversation, Dominic invited Camilla to his apartment for dinner. It was the first time she'd been to his home, and she was nervous as the elevator climbed to the penthouse floor. It's probably massive and fancy, she'd told Miguel before leaving, with artwork that costs more than our car. She wasn't entirely wrong. Dominic's apartment was spacious and elegantly furnished, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But it also had unexpected touches of warmth. Books piled on side tables, a guitar propped in the corner, photos of family displayed on shelves. You're learning to play, Camilla said, nodding toward the guitar. Dominic smiled sheepishly, trying to, I'm not very good yet. Will you play something for me? She asked. He hesitated, then nodded. One song, but don't laugh. Camilla sat on the couch, watching as Dominic picked up the guitar and positioned his fingers on the frets. He began to play a simple melody, his concentration evident in the furrow of his brow. When he began to sing, his voice was low and a little uncertain, but the words were clear. Sometimes life takes an unexpected turn, leads you down a path you'd never choose. But standing here now, I can finally see that sometimes what you lose isn't really what you lose. The song was simple, the kind that told a story about accidents that turn into destiny, about two people from different worlds finding common ground. When he finished, Camilla was blinking back tears. "Oh, you wrote that?" Dominic set the guitar aside. "I told you I wasn't very good yet." "It was beautiful," she insisted. "Did you really write it about us?" He moved to sit beside her on the couch. "Who else would inspire me to write about Fender?" "Fenders and fate," Camilla laughed, leaning against his shoulder. "You're full of surprises, Dominic Reyes." "I hope good ones," he said, wrapping his arm around her. "Mostly good," she teased, "though your singing voice needs work." He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "I'll add that to my list of skills to develop." As they sat there, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows, Camilla felt a sense of peace she hadn't expected. Perhaps their worlds weren't so incompatible after all. Perhaps they could create something new together, something that honored both their pasts while building toward a shared future. "I have something for you," Dominic said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. Camilla opened it, puzzled. Inside was a check made out to her name, with "Void" scrawled across it, and a note. "I thought money fixed things, but I learned love doesn't ask for receipts." Camilla looked up at him, confused. "I don't understand." "The day we met," Dominic explained, "you offered to pay for the damage to my car. You were so determined to make things right, even though it would have been a financial strain." "I remember," she said softly. "That check is for the repair cost." He pointed to the voided mark across it. "But I don't want your money, Camilla. I never did. What I found that night was worth far more than any car repair." Tears welled in Camilla's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Dominic's thumb gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Just know that you changed my life that night, in ways I'm still discovering." Camilla looked at the note again, tracing the words with her finger. "Love doesn't ask for receipts," she read aloud. "No," Dominic agreed. "It just gives without keeping score. Like she had given to Miguel all these years, like her parents had given to both of them until their last day." It was a kind of love Camilla understood well. Selfless, constant, enduring. "Think I'm falling in love with you," she whispered, the words escaping before she could reconsider. Dominic's smile was radiant. "I think I fell in love with you the moment you stood in the fog in your scrubs, more worried about my car than yourself." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But Camilla moved toward him, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt like coming home after a long journey. When they separated, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "Where do we go from here?" Camilla smiled. "Forward, I think. Together." That night, driving home to her apartment, Camilla felt a lightness in her heart that had been missing for too long. The future was still uncertain. Miguel would be leaving for college soon. Dominic was still finding his footing in his new role, and they were still learning how to blend their different lives. But for the first time in years, uncertainty didn't frighten her. It excited her, because now she wasn't facing it alone. When she arrived home, Miguel was still up, working on homework at the kitchen table. "How was it?" he asked, looking up from his textbook. Camilla smiled, setting her purse down. "Good, really good." Miguel studied her face, then nodded. "You look happy, Cammy." "I am," she realized. "Happier than I've been in a long time." Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. "Got home safely?" The simple message made her smile widen. This man who had once seemed so removed from her world, now worried about her drive home, texted to make sure she was safe. "Yes," she replied. "Already? Missing you." His response came quickly. "Tomorrow?" She thought about her shift at the clinic, about Miguel's college visit schedule, about all the practical responsibilities that defined her life. But now, there was room for something else too. Something that made her heart race and her soul lighter. "Tomorrow," she typed back. "Definitely tomorrow." As she got ready for bed, Camilla's gaze fell on her cracked coffee tin. Someday might still be in the future, but today was already delivering on promises she'd never dared to make to herself. Spring arrived with a burst of color and change. 3 months had passed since the night of the accident, and life had settled into a new rhythm for Camilla and Dominic. Miguel had been accepted to 3 colleges, including his top choice with a partial scholarship. The kitchen table was now covered with financial aid forms instead of unpaid bills, as Camilla helped him navigate the next steps. "How are we going to make up the difference?" Miguel asked one evening, calculator in hand. "Even with the scholarship and loans, we're still short." Camilla bit her lip. She'd been adding extra shifts at the clinic, but the numbers still didn't quite add up. "We'll figure it out. Maybe I can pick up some weekend work." "You already work 6 days a week," Miguel protested. "And don't say you'll use the someday tin, that's yours." Before Camilla could respond, there was a knock at the door. Dominic stood on the other side, carrying a large pizza box and a folder tucked under his arm. "I come bearing dinner and some ideas," he announced, setting the pizza on the counter. Over the past months, Dominic had become a regular presence in their small apartment. He'd helped Miguel with his applications, brought groceries without making it feel like charity, and slowly earned a place in their tightly knit family unit. "Ideas about what?" Camilla asked, getting plates from the cabinet. Dominic hesitated, then placed the folder on the table. "College funding." Miguel immediately stiffened. "I don't need handouts." "Miguel," Camilla warned, but Dominic shook his head. "It's not a handout," he assured Miguel. "It's information about some scholarship programs I know about, including one specifically for students interested in computer science." Miguel's resistance softened slightly. "What kind of scholarship?" "One sponsored by the Horizon Foundation," Dominic explained. "It covers tuition and books for 4 years at any state university. All you need is a 3.5 GPA and demonstrated interest in the field." "Which you have," Camilla added, hope rising in her chest. Miguel looked between them, his pride warring with practicality. "And I'd qualify just like that." "You'd need to submit an application and a project sample," Dominic said. "But based on what I've seen of your coding skills, you're exactly the kind of student they're looking for." Camilla watched the exchange with a mixture of gratitude and caution. She appreciated Dominic's help, but she was also wary of Miguel becoming dependent on his resources. "The deadline is next week," Dominic continued. "I can help you put together a strong application if you want." Miguel considered this, then slowly nodded. "I have that app I've been working on. That could work as a sample, right?" "Perfect," Dominic agreed. As they ate pizza and reviewed the scholarship materials, Camilla felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the spring weather. This was what she'd always wanted for Miguel: opportunities, a future limited only by his own ambition and talent. And for herself? She was still figuring that out day by day. Her relationship with Dominic had grown deeper, more certain with each passing week. He had kept his promise to take things slowly, to respect her priorities and her need for independence. Later that night, after Miguel had gone to bed, Camilla and Dominic sat on the small balcony of her apartment, sharing a blanket against the cool evening air. "Thank you for the scholarship information," she said, leaning against his shoulder. "But I need to know, did you create this opportunity for Miguel?" Dominic shook his head. "The program has existed for years. I just never paid much attention to it until now. All I did was make sure Miguel knew about it." Camilla nodded, relieved. "I want him to succeed on his own merits, not because of who I'm dating." "He will," Dominic assured her. "That kid's brilliant. The scholarship committee would be crazy not to choose him." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the lights of the city below. "I've been thinking," Dominic said finally. "The lease on my apartment is up next month." Camilla looked up at him. "Are you moving?" "I'm considering it. The place is bigger than I need, especially now that I'm not hosting business dinners anymore." He paused. "I thought maybe I could look for something in this neighborhood." The implication was clear. He wanted to be closer to her, to them. "This isn't exactly the luxury penthouse district," Camilla pointed out. Dominic smiled. "No, but it has other advantages. Better company for one." The idea of Dominic living nearby made Camilla's heart race with both excitement and anxiety. It would be another step forward, another layer of commitment in a relationship that still sometimes felt too good to be true. "You don't have to decide anything now," he added, sensing her hesitation. Just something to think about. A week later, Miguel submitted his scholarship application with Dominic's guidance. The waiting began, adding another layer of tension to the already stressful college preparation process. At the dental clinic, Camilla was finishing with her last patient of the day when Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. "Camilla, could I see you in my office when you're done?" he asked. Her stomach tightened. Despite the media attention dying down, she still worried about its impact on her job. 20 minutes later, she sat across from Dr. Patel, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Dr. Patel smiled reassuringly. "More than okay. I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity. You know Beth is retiring next month?" Beth was the office manager, who had been with the practice for nearly 20 years. "Yes," Camilla nodded. "We're having a party for her next Friday. Well, I need to replace her, and I'd like to offer you the position." Camilla blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm a hygienist, not an administrator." "You're organized, reliable, and patients love you," Dr. Patel countered. "The administrative skills can be learned. The people skills, those you already have." The offer was unexpected but intriguing. Office manager would mean more regular hours, better pay, and new challenges. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course, take the weekend to consider it." Dr. Patel stood, signaling the end of their meeting. "But Camilla, you'd be excellent at this role, just as you excel at everything you take on." The compliment stayed with her as she drove home, her mind racing with possibilities. Better pay would mean more financial security for her and Miguel. Regular hours would mean more time with Dominic, more balance in her life. When she arrived home, she found Miguel and Dominic sitting at the kitchen table, both looking at Miguel's laptop with serious expressions. "What's going on?" she asked, setting down her purse. Miguel looked up, his face breaking into a wide grin. "I got it, Cammy, the scholarship. I just got the email." For a moment, Camilla couldn't process the words. Then joy rushed through her, and she was hugging her brother, both of them laughing and crying at once. "I knew you could do it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Miguel." Over her brother's shoulder, she caught Dominic's eye. He was watching them with a soft smile, genuine happiness for their family's milestone evident in his expression. Later, after they'd celebrated with impromptu ice cream sundaes, Dominic pulled Camilla aside. "I have something to ask you," he said, suddenly looking nervous. "It's about Miguel's graduation next month," Camilla nodded. "What about it?" "I know you've been saving for a special gift for him. Something to celebrate this milestone," she smiled. "I've been putting aside a little from each paycheck. It's not much, but I want to get him something he'll remember." "What if," Dominic began carefully, "we went in on a gift together? Something a bit bigger than either of us could do alone." Camilla felt her guard go up slightly. "Like what?" "A car," Dominic said. "Nothing fancy, a reliable used model, something to get him back and forth from campus." The suggestion took her by surprise. A car was far beyond what she could afford on her own, but it was exactly what Miguel needed. "I don't know, Dominic. That's a big gift to come from someone he's only known a few months." Dominic considered this. "What if it's primarily from you? I can contribute behind the scenes, but it would be your gift to him." Camilla thought about all the sacrifices Miguel had made, how he'd never complained about taking the bus, about hand-me-down clothes, about watching his friends get cars for their 16th birthdays while he went without. "Let me think about it," she said finally. "Of course," Dominic agreed. "No pressure, I just want to help if I can." That night, lying in bed, Camilla thought about the changes in her life over the past months. The job offer, Miguel's scholarship, Dominic's growing role in their lives. It was all happening so fast, yet somehow it felt right. She reached for her phone and sent Dominic a text. "About the car idea, yes, but I want to contribute what I can." His response came quickly. "Partners. That's all I've ever wanted us to." The word partners lingered in her mind as she drifted off to sleep. Not savior and saved, not rich and poor, but equals, each bringing their own strengths to the relationship. In the weeks that followed, life moved at a dizzying pace. Camilla accepted the office manager position, beginning training while still finishing her hygienist duties. Miguel focused on his final exams and graduation preparations, and Dominic found an apartment just 5 blocks from Camilla's, a modest 2-bedroom that was a far cry from his former penthouse. "Are you sure about this place?" Camilla asked as she helped him unpack boxes in his new kitchen. "It's so different from what you're used to." Dominic looked around the apartment, which was spacious by neighborhood standards but nothing like his previous home. "I'm sure. I don't need all that space or the view. I'd rather be closer to the people who matter." The simple honesty of his words touched her deeply. The day before Miguel's graduation, Camilla and Dominic went to pick up the car they'd chosen together, a 5-year-old Honda Civic in good condition. Camilla had insisted on using all of her someday savings as her contribution, and Dominic had matched it dollar for dollar without complaint. "He's going to be so surprised," Camilla said, as they drove the car to Dominic's new apartment, where they'd hide it until tomorrow. "You're a good sister," Dominic said. "The best." Camilla smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in it. "I'm going to miss him so much when he leaves for college." "He'll be back for holidays and summers," Dominic reminded her. "And now he'll have a way to come home whenever he wants." "I know," Camilla sighed. "It's just been the 2 of us for so long, it's hard to imagine my life without him in it every day." Dominic was quiet for a moment, then said, "Maybe it's time to start thinking about what you want for yourself, now that Miguel is taking this next step." The question caught her off guard. What did she want for herself? For so long, her focus had been on survival, on providing for Miguel, on keeping their small family afloat. The idea of considering her own dreams felt almost selfish. "I don't know," she admitted. "I've spent so long thinking about Miguel's future that I haven't really considered my own." "Well, what would you put in a new someday tin?" Dominic asked. "If you could dream without limits," Camilla thought about it. "I'd like to finish my degree. I was halfway through a business program when my parents died, and I had to drop out to work full-time." Dominic nodded. "That's definitely doable. What else?" "Travel, maybe. Nothing fancy. Just seeing new places." "I've never been out of the state." She glanced at him. "What about you? How's that list of yours coming along?" "The guitar lessons are going well," he said with a smile. "And I've booked tickets to the Grand Canyon for next month." Camilla raised an eyebrow. "By yourself?" "Actually," Dominic said, his eyes fixed on the road, "I was hoping you might come with me, if you can get the time off." The invitation hung in the air between them, another step forward, another layer of commitment. "I'd like that," Camilla said softly. "A lot." Graduation day dawned bright and clear. Miguel, in his cap and gown, stood proudly with Camilla for photos before the ceremony. Dominic took the pictures, then joined them for a few group shots taken by another parent. "I have something for you," Camilla told Miguel after the ceremony, leading him to the parking lot where Dominic was waiting beside the Honda. Miguel stopped in his tracks when he saw the car, decorated with a large bow. "Is that for me?" Camilla nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "You've worked so hard, Miguel. You deserve something special." Miguel looked at the car, then at Camilla, then at Dominic. "I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not too much," Camilla insisted. "Not for you, never for you." Dominic stepped forward. "This is from your sister, Miguel. She's been saving for this moment for a long time." Miguel looked at Camilla, understanding dawning in his eyes. "The someday tin," she nodded. "Every penny, plus a little extra from a friend who believes in you as much as I do." Miguel looked at Dominic, who gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Something passed between them in that moment, respect, understanding, perhaps even the beginnings of real affection. "Thank you," Miguel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Both of you." He hugged Camilla fiercely, then, after a moment's hesitation, offered his hand to Dominic. But Dominic pulled him into a quick hug instead. "You earned this," Dominic told him. "Now go make your sister proud at college." As they watched Miguel show off his new car to his friends, Dominic slipped his arm around Camilla's waist. "He's going to be fine," he assured her. "You've given him everything he needs to succeed." Camilla leaned against him, allowing herself to feel the full weight of the moment, the pride, the love, the bittersweet knowledge that this chapter of her life was closing. "What now?" she asked softly. Dominic smiled. Now we start writing your story, the one that's been on hold while you took care of everyone else. Later that evening, after Miguel had gone to celebrate with friends, promising to drive carefully, Dominic suggested a walk in the park where they'd had their third date. Binfi. Summer air was warm, fireflies blinking in the gathering darkness as they strolled along familiar paths. When they reached their bench, Dominic guided her to sit. "I've been thinking," he began, suddenly serious, "about the future, about us." Camilla felt her pulse quicken. "What about us?" Dominic took a deep breath. "I know we come from different worlds. I know my life has been easier in many ways, but loving you has taught me what really matters, Camilla. Not success or status or stuff, but the kind of person you choose to be each day." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Camilla's breath caught in her throat. "This isn't a ring," he said quickly, seeing her expression. "Not yet. I know we're not there, but it is a promise." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver key. "A key?" Camilla asked, confused. Dominic nodded. "To a minivan." "A minivan," Camilla repeated, even more confused now. Dominic laughed at her expression. "Not my usual style, I know, but I rented it for a reason." "What reason could there possibly be to rent a minivan?" Camilla asked, laughing despite her confusion. Dominic's eyes shone with excitement. "Remember my list, the Grand Canyon, guitar lessons, pizza in Italy?" Camilla nodded. "Well, I decided life's too short to wait for someday. I rented the minivan for a road trip, 2 weeks starting tomorrow. The Grand Canyon, Zion, Bryce Canyon, all the national parks I've never seen." Camilla's eyes widened. "Tomorrow, but my job, I can't just—" "I already spoke to Dr. Patel," Dominic admitted. "He agreed to delay your office manager training until you return. Said you deserved a vacation before taking on new responsibilities." Camilla was speechless. A road trip, the kind of adventure she'd never allowed herself to imagine. "But Miguel is an adult now, with his own car and his own plans for the summer," Dominic reminded her gently. "In fact," he looked over Camilla's shoulder, and she turned to see Miguel walking toward them, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "Miguel," she asked, confused, "what are you doing here?" Miguel grinned. "He invited me to crash dinner. Fair trade, right?" The words from Dominic's earlier text clicked into place. "You're coming on the road trip?" "Just for the first 3 days," Miguel explained. "Then I have that summer coding program in Phoenix, remember? Dominic's going to drop me off on the way." Camilla looked between the two men in her life, both smiling at her surprise. "You planned this together?" "He's not so bad after all," Miguel said with a shrug, but his eyes were warm as he looked at Dominic. "And he promised we could stop at that weird meteor crater I've always wanted to see." Camilla felt tears of happiness welling up. The idea of the three of them, traveling together, creating memories that had nothing to do with bills or responsibilities, or the daily grind of survival. It was more than she'd ever dared to hope for. "What do you say, Camilla?" Dominic asked, holding out the key. "Ready for an adventure?" Looking at the key, Camilla thought about the night that had started it all. The foggy evening, the accident, the unexpected meeting that had changed everything. How one wrong turn had somehow led her exactly where she needed to be. She took the key, her fingers closing around the cool metal. "As long as you let me drive this time." Dominic laughed, gathering her into his arms. "Deal. Just promise not to hit anything else." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Unless it's my heart again." And as they walked toward the parking lot, Miguel a few steps ahead, Camilla felt the last of her reservations fall away. The future was still uncertain, still unscripted. But now, that felt like the most exciting part. Because sometimes, the best stories begin not with careful planning, but with unexpected collisions, with fender bends and first dates, and the courage to say yes to possibilities you never saw coming. "Let's go home and pack," she said, slipping her hand into Dominic's. "We've got a long road ahead." And for the first time in her life, that road wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace, with all its twists and turns and unexpected destinations. Because now she wasn't traveling it alone. Behind them, the park grew dark, fireflies dancing like stars brought down to earth. Ahead, An adventure waited, starting with a rented minivan and 3 people who had found each other through chance and choice and perhaps a touch of destiny. The next morning, as they loaded the last of their bags into the minivan, Camilla took a moment to look at her apartment building. For so long it had been her entire world, the place where she and Miguel had built their life after losing their parents, the home she had maintained through double shifts and careful budgeting. Now, she was leaving it behind for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of not being a dental hygienist or an office manager, or even a big sister. Just Camilla discovering parts of herself that had been dormant for too long. "Ready?" Dominic asked, coming to stand beside her. Camilla nodded, feeling a new certainty settle in her heart. Ready, and she was. Ready for the road ahead with all its possibilities. Ready to see what came next in this unexpected story that had begun with a simple fender bender on a foggy night. Miguel honked the horn impatiently from the back seat. "Come on, you two. The Grand Canyon isn't getting any closer." Laughing, Camilla and Dominic walked to the minivan, their fingers intertwined. She climbed into the driver's seat, adjusting the mirrors and the seat position. "Remember," Dominic teased as he buckled his seatbelt, "no hitting anything." Camilla smiled, turning, the key in the ignition. No promises. As they pulled away from the curb, Camilla caught a final glimpse of her building in the rearview mirror. But she didn't look back for long. The road ahead and the people beside her were far more interesting than what she was leaving behind, and as the city gave way to open highway, she realized that someday wasn't just a label on a coffee tin anymore. Someday was now, today. This moment with the sun shining and miles of possibility stretching before them. Life rarely went according to plan. Sometimes it sent unexpected accidents, unforeseen detours, unplanned meetings that changed everything. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming, like fender benders that led to first dates, and first dates that led to love. "Where to first?" she asked, glancing at Dominic beside her. He smiled, reaching for her hand across the console. "Wherever the road takes us," and that, Camilla decided, was exactly the right answer.